Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 600. Damn, I should have had a party whistle. You know, or a party popper or something. Episode I mean, it's not 500 and it's not 1,000, but it's 600. It's a 0.0 release. It's a full point release. Yeah, it's a not point release. It's a point. It's 100. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's 100.
Well, it makes me. I've got one quick question then, Nick. Like, who is the vocalist on your theme music?
I think it's AI. I think it was done. I think it's actually been. It's like somebody typed it in. I'm really trying to remember whoever won the competition last time, which I cut. It's such a long time ago, and I've been asked to do another one. I should, but. Before we get there, perhaps I should just say what this podcast is about, which is about electronic music, music production, synthesizers, software, sound, movies, you know, the whole thing to do with the audio world, AI, all of that stuff. Welcome, everybody. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat room, that episode 600 chat room. Thanks for joining us. I asked what pieces of gear have got 600 in the title, so I've got a few to throw in there. And we've got our old school IRC chat room. So we've got two forms of chat room, and of course we're streaming live to Facebook as well and to Twitch, which we do every week as long as the various technology. I do all three of them just in case one of them doesn't work, which you'd be surprised how often. YouTube is always really good, but Facebook occasionally balks, and Twitch balked a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, it's just multiple streams, multiple possibilities. So anyway, let's say hello and welcome to our guest. We've got a full panel this week, and we'll start over there in 70s sepia land with Jamie Liddell, who is and he's probably going into a really nice kind of authentic 1970s signal path as well.
Oh, I'm not, but I'm going into a browner VMX into a retro stay level, then going into an Oxford suppressor, a UAD, LA2A, followed by a UAD Pultec going into
well, it's sort of 70s, but
it's
virtual.
Kind of 70s. It's virtual. It's kind of mixed between virtual and tube. But it's good to see you. Nick, I just want to take a second to celebrate you, because, I mean, even that initial thing where you've set up so many ways for the community to get involved, we salute you, man. Out in the community, you're doing an amazing service for the audio world. So 600 episodes, man. Having just started doing a podcast, I'm only up to episode 60. It's a hell of a thing. So just respect. Thanks, man.
Well, when you get to 600, you'll probably look as knackered and worn out as I do. But Jamie Liddell there in Nashville, of course, singer, songwriter, producer. We haven't seen you for ages. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I don't know. This coincides with another part of my life. Obviously, living in the 70s, I've got to sort of keep up my sort of sports regiment, and so.
That's a Wednesday afternoon, generally.
Serious, partly not serious. But yeah, it really is an awkward time. So I just kind of forfeited it because I thought episode 600, I've got to represent. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope you're not injured or anything, and that's why you're taking time off. Just being a good chap. A fiddle. Excellent. Yeah. Glad to hear it. And we also have Mr. Dominic Hawken, who he's started a kind of camera arms race here on episode 600. He popped up and was like, oh my God, look at the resolution on that. Dominic Hawken, of course, Snuggle Sounds,
look at the wide angle on that lens.
So yeah, he's got his DSLR plugged in, which looks lovely. So I plugged mine in, which doesn't look quite as good, but looks better than normal. So we got a bit of one-upmanship going on. Dominic Hawken, thank you for joining us. I see you've got all your blinky lights on, which really do look good in out of focus depth.
Yeah, I'm going to do some more YouTube stuff because everyone's at it. So I thought, I'll try out my old DSLR camera. And plugged it in, and it looks amazing. I'm really, really shocked. So, like I said, I just need a shame about the subject matter, really. So, I'll just get a bit of gauze to soften the focus a little bit. Oh, just a bag, really.
Cover your head in Vaseline.
Well, you can there's a top tip for you. You find lots of YouTubers are doing it. Just go with the overhead shot. And then everything's fine. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay. Ever.
Right. I'll fly a drone around the.
You just need to get your hands in shot over the table. That's it. Anyway, John, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
we also have Miss Tori Letzler, who you may remember for last week. She actually liked it so much she came back for more. Actually, I know seriously that you're in the studio working. Tori is a composer, media composer, amongst many other things. And singer. Sorry, I've got to mute that tab. I'm getting some notifications. So you're in your studio because last time you were in your kitchen. So
yeah, I'm in my kitchen. I'm not in my kitchen this time. I'm in my studio, and I'm on my very fancy iPhone. I gotta up my setup here because it's not quite as nice as
the camera's pretty good. But if you're on your iPhone, you know that means that you've got to now pick it up and show us around your studio because we've not seen it. So I can see the corner of a desk there. I don't know what desk. Oh no, that's your. Okay. Oh right. Okay.
So we have 2 rooms here, and they both have built-in pianos. Woohoo!
Nice.
Yeah, the Sub 37's back here. Got the Prophet Rev 2, the MS-20, the new one, not an original, and then just got a new Eurorack case, Photech.
Ooh.
This thing called the Moisturizer, which we just bought, and then hitting my mic back here.
String instrument.
Yeah, I got the board, mini log pedals. My favorite mic, my Flea 47. I love this thing. Yeah, there's some guitars.
So this is your workroom essentially. Have you got live areas as well, or are you just kind of pretty much working in the control room?
So this is the bigger of the 2 rooms. We have this room because my husband and I work together. Then we have a smaller writing room upstairs, which has some more synths in it. And then there's a live room here as well.
Nice.
But I actually do most of my vocal recording in here because I use, I don't know if you can see this retro, the power strip that's got a really good compressor and EQ in it.
Okay.
I use that, and I don't like unracking it. So I tend to just do all my vocal recording in here because it's a dead room. It sounds nice.
Nice. What are the monitors I could see over there? Are they Genelec?
Neumann.
The monitors?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, we have these are the 410s. And I want to say upstairs we have the 310s for the smaller room. I could be wrong about that, but
cool. So after we finish, then you're going to have to get straight to work. So you have a full day of slogging away at your latest project, right?
Yeah, it's 8 a.m. here. This afternoon I have a spotting session for a new film. That's probably going to take up the majority of my day. So it'll be a remote spotting session.
What's a spotting session? Yeah, we don't know.
Sorry.
Sounds amazing.
So spotting session, when you start a film or television show, anything that has picture usually, you sit down with the director, producer, people from the network, and you watch the film in its entirety. That usually has temp music in, and you kind of spot basically the best way to describe this. I've made a cue sheet in advance with the old cut that I have that has the markers for where the temp comes in and out. And then we sit down and have a discussion about the music, what's working, what's not working in the temp music, where we would like music, where music should be taken out, the overall tone of the film, discuss the film, the characters and timeline, etc. So it's basically like the kickoff for scoring.
That sounds like a really sensible idea because then, well, we were all in the same room and we agreed. I heard you say when they come back and go, no, I'm sure. Do you record it as well so that you could use it as evidence later when they start changing their minds? Yeah.
I haven't. Well, that's not true. I have in the past. This one we're going to do remotely, so I guess I could record it because everybody's going to be phoning in on this program called Zoom. So okay. I wonder if there's a way to like record that, but...
Just as a safety net. I'm sure it won't be necessary. There'll be lovely clients. They'll love everything you do and go, fabulous, that's great. We just have to recut the movie. Yeah. But that sort of stuff happens, doesn't it? Anyway.
Yeah, that's not my fault. So.
No, I know it's not your fault, but it does impact on your workload, of course. There's the...
Oh,
yeah, slightly. Well, anyway, right, okay. So let's... one thing I wanted to say, so episode 600, I was racking my brains for items of gear with 600 in them. We do this occasionally. Every once in a while, I kind of, I think I did it for episode 414, for instance, for microphones, whatever. So so far, I came up with Prophet 600, The Dave Smith, sequential Prophet 600. Wagyu came up with, via the chat room, the IRC chat, came up with the Akai VX 600, which is a sort of analog synth, and also there's the Roland CSQ 600. I wonder whether any of our esteemed guests have got any other 600. I think there's very few, actually, if I'm honest. But I'm going to open it up to the floor. Any other 600s? Obscures?
Is there an Akai 6000 and you scribble out the last bit?
Yeah, okay. Well, I think if I made it to episode 6000, then there's going to be something wrong.
Oh, don't say that. No,
I will be a brain in a jar at that point, I expect. Yeah, I'll be like Futurama, I can imagine.
We need to save this clip for when that actually happens.
Well, we could actually probably work some sort of like overlay, which just green screens us all into jars. Anyway, I'm not sure there'd be much point, but yeah. So, like I say, it's quite slim pickings on the 600. I can see, Tori, your cogs are whirring and you're looking around, but I don't know. There must be a Euro rack with a 600, a module with a 600 in it somewhere. Hold on, DJ
I'm seeing
Mixer.
if I have anything.
DJ Mixer, Pioneer DJM 600. There's one.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So, but that's as far as we got. Anyway, let's get on to some topics. Now, what did I get? What did I find? I found this. This guy. Where is it? Mix the music. So this is. I had a video, didn't I? I'll play the video. That's probably the best thing to do.
Mix the Music is a new online store specializing in multi-track audio files that allows producers, mix engineers, musicians, and fans to legally download, listen to, and remix songs using the original multi-tracks as recorded by major artists and composers. It's a backstage pass to the individual tracks that make up great recordings. The store has hundreds of hit songs, film, and video game score cues to choose from. Create your Mix the Music account today, and be sure to check back on the site frequently for...
Oh, that's just starting to sound like an ad. That was not the intention. So I didn't know about this. I just suddenly came up against it. It was a web... it was a news item on our site, and it's basically what it says. I think it's linked to Presonus, so it's linked to your Presonus Studio One, so you can hook it up, and then you download these special projects which allow you to explore. This is the key, the multi-track. I'd not been aware of this before, and they've got quite a lot of stuff, but you can't export anything, and you can't mix down an expert, so you can only use it in real time. I mean, obviously you could plug your audio interface into another audio source, or I'm sure there are ways, let's just say, but the idea is that it's, rights man. But it's an interesting idea. I don't know whether, because sometimes when you get a multi-track, particularly when you're starting out and you maybe not had any experience with it, you can see how things are put together, how messy or clean, or how much happened in the mix and how much happened in the session. I mean, I know, Jamie, we've talked about the moment, haven't we, a lot, when you did that. We did that special on the Capitol Chambers thing that you did, and this could be really useful for people wanting to find that stuff out. Or do you think there's a risk of it all becoming a little bit too exposed? Copyright.
Well, like here in the 70s, we just give each other the tapes, man. I mean, ultimately, it would be kind of sweet. I do like that. I always remember that thing with Steve Albini being interviewed, and they're saying, "All right, Steve, what's with all the tapes?" It's going, "All right, you try to go to a session from 1990 and I'll race you, see how quickly you can bring your multi-track back." He goes to the archives, grabs the tapes, whaps it on the machine, and hits play. And everyone else is scrambling around and trying to find a SCSI hard drive that's compatible with Pro Tools 4. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you've got Echo Farm missing, and you just basically can't play it. So he's kind of having a laugh. Good archiving. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit off topic, but I've learnt loads going through multi-tracks. I mean, I think, as everyone who is on the internet regularly knows, these multi-tracks have been around for ages. Everyone's heard the Marvin ones, and, there's plenty of Queen and Beatles and everything out there already sort of in the naughty lands. But, man, one of the things I always found, and it really inspired me, was listening to the Motown multi-tracks. Something like What's Going On, it's a pretty epic song. And when you think about it, it seems really lavish and slightly out of reach. But if you mute like the vibes and the strings and the sort of luxurious elements, and you just listen to the rhythm section playing, in that famous Motown room, it's beautiful because they play so well. But sonically, it's manageable. So it gives you kind of hope, and you kind of learn that it's not really about the sound. It's more about the way they're playing and the parts they're playing. So yeah, those multi-tracks are invaluable learning tools, especially just for arrangement knowledge. And yeah, I mean, I think people can learn tons from them. $10 for one is crazy.
It's not expensive, is it? I wonder how that works. In fact, look, here's one I saw, and I was tempted. I was going to buy it before I realised I needed Studio One, which I don't have installed. The Temptations' "Papa Was a Rolling Stone" as multi-track. I mean, wow, because that is an epic production. Or maybe any Jeff Lynne. I wonder if there's any ELO. God, I'd love to see how he managed to put no result. I don't know, Tori. You because you studied film scoring at I don't know where you actually studied it, but so I haven't been stalking
Berkeley.
you, but you did say it last time. So did you get to kind of open previous sessions to see, you know, how maybe existing people worked, or you just had to go straight in and decide?
No, at Berkeley I did not, but there is a really fun like community or groups of communities in LA that kind of get together and do this for fun. I've gone to one once, kind of like what Jamie was saying, that people already have some of these Queen tracks, and there's some stuff floating around. I want to say 2 years ago. It was a group up in the hills, and basically everyone goes to this party and they sit and they take apart exactly that and analyze it, and everyone discusses. It was super interesting. So I think for, you know, educational purposes, I think this is a good idea. It reminds me a little bit of the website Beatport that EDM artists currently use for remixing.
Oh, with stems,
artists will
because they've got
upload their
stems.
stems. Yeah, it reminds me of that idea, just obviously a different way. But I always think stuff like that is really interesting. I think it's nice to have an advantage to kind of look through that stuff. Anytime you're looking through somebody else's projects or stems, you're going to learn something, because everyone does something completely different, especially if it's from, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s, where things were just done differently. Yeah,
that's true. I just could point out here, this one, Papa Was Rolling Stone, 7 minutes, 16 tracks, 1972. I think that is definitely one for you, Jay. I can see your button hovering. I mean, I think because there's loads of modern stuff, Ariana Grande and that sort of thing, but I think they get printed out as stems rather than as the raw multi-tracks. Because I mean, I'd imagine, you know, most of the DAW sessions, it doesn't really work so much in track. I mean, you work in a channel, but then you end up bouncing things for various reasons. I don't know, Dom. Nice, eh?
Yeah, it's one of the most exciting things about remixing one of those old sort of classic tracks was getting the multi-tracks and just turning them up and hearing how other people did it kind of back in the day. And Jamie's right, you learn a hell of a lot about that, about what's going on. I mean, the restriction on it is weird, that restriction on not being able to kind of export them, because anyone can export anything from stuff like that. I think it's crying out to be an app, really, because you could restrict them nicely in the app, but you know, literally just have a mini mixing desk on your app and just call each one of those in as a kind of sale. That would be awesome. But I mean, you'll find that on those original things, they'll all be comped. So they will really be like stems, or at least in my experience, they were always pulled down to stems, and the way that they'd got, you know, the stereo backing vocals with about 30 different takes was just amazing. I just reminded, I'm not sure if I've told the story before, but the Trevor Horn mixing Relax, there was a Louis Jardine who's a percussionist.
Yeah, legendary
percussionist. Legendary. He used to just have the best stories. And if ever you worked at SARM with Trevor Horn, the tape ops just used to be walking zombies, because he would be absolutely classic on kind of working, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning he'd say, do you remember that tape we did? You recorded it with the rhythm section off the Blockheads. It was about 3 months ago. Can you just go and get it and line it up? And they'd all scurry off to the tape room and line up all the tapes, because in those days on the tape machines you literally had to line up every single channel to test tones to make sure the frequency response was right. But he used to keep DATs every time he did a session, because for big productions like Relax, which obviously turned into be a huge success as well, it would just go all around the houses before it was finished. And the day they started, he just got Louis and he said, right, I just want to keep it really simple. I have a kick and a shaker, maybe a simple bass line, and they put it down. And then they went for about 4-month process of, Trevor didn't like that, so they got in actually the Blockheads, the rhythm section that he often used. Then they went to LA and started programming it. Then they got some more live musicians in LA, and then they went somewhere else, and they pulled up all the tapes and they were comping them together. And finally they put this mix down, and it sounded amazing. And when they walked out the room, Louis got this DAT from day one and put it on, and it was relax. Exactly the same as what they'd done when they started. He just pulled it all the way back down to the basics, lost all the live stuff, all the live bands, all the recording. So it kind of, there must have been about 300 reel-to-reels off that session until they comped it to the end. And sometimes that would be awesome to see. Some of those back catalogue kind of comp reels where you've actually got individual takes and stuff that have been pulled down to the kind of bare minimum would be awesome to see.
I guess. I mean, if sorry, go.
I was going to say, like, Trevor was reaching for the faders and then he heard "Don't Do It" from the lyrics and he's like, yeah, he's probably right. Just like, don't do it. Put it all in the trash. The song actually helped him. He's like, what's it saying, this song? I think about "Don't Do It." Yeah,
it's interesting. I blame Trevor Horn and Peter Gabriel for influencing a whole bunch of people when we all became kind of early digital musicians, you know. So when DATs first came in and we were sort of throwing down loads of ideas and you had a recorder, you had somebody come in to do a session, you'd leave the DAT running the whole time, and there was this notion that somehow all of this stuff that would end up on the DAT, there'd be somebody taking all these notes and you'd have like hours of stuff that somehow magically you'd go back to and resample it all, and it just, I must have hours and hours of DATs of stuff that would just, it may as well have just thrown it out. It's just complete waste of bloody time.
But this is actually a modern conundrum for those out there foolhardy enough to mess with modulars, because, you know, this is exactly what can happen. The endless hours of noodling to disk or whatever. The most important job that you have as a user of modular is editor. Do you know what I mean? Because you can generate all day, but can you pluck from, you know, that joyful noise, you know, meaningful, shareable nuggets, or is it strictly for the creator's enjoyment?
That's a very good point. I know. Tori, well, you use modular stuff in your, but I mean, in the media world, you have to be very disciplined. I mean, you haven't got time to spend all day messing around on a modular for a music cue, right?
Well, it depends. There are certain things that I know, like if I'm modular can be quick or complicated. It depends what you're using. It depends how many things you're using, if it's something new or something you've had for a while. A great example of this is in Black Friday. My husband and I, because we enable each other, we went to Perfect Circuit together and kind of went crazy, and came back and we didn't have anything going on because it was a holiday here. And I have a video because sometimes we'll stream when we're just kind of improvising on a rack, and we record every time we do that. We just have the dock completely running so that we can, you know, go back and do exactly what Jim was saying, is edit through the stuff that we liked. And I had made this really cool sound out of one of the new noise engineering modules we got. And I get it going, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you're recording, right? And I see my husband, Steve, he's like on the other side of the rack. He looks and the thing had paused. No, it's not recording. How do we get it? We get it. Don't change it. And there's like this mass panic that just started of like trying to get it to record and not losing the sound. And like, it was awful because I know it's a new piece of equipment, probably not going to be able to get it back. We did get it back or something similar. But like, there is this aspect of like, once it's there, it could be gone. And it's both exciting and terrifying. So when I have time to like sit and just record for hours, it's fine. But yeah, on an actual deadline, it doesn't work that well. I make, I say like, oh, sorry, I was saying banks of sounds that I'll go back to later.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I just had one thing, sorry to interject. It's probably a laggy affair, but what do you guys think about this? I've been sort of mulling on this for a while. Like, obviously a lot of people are trying to work out the best way to edit. You know, I used to have a thing for my SSL where I could walk around and do the talk back as a button, right? So how about like when you're listening, say you've recorded a bunch of stuff and you think you're in edit mode, and rather than sit there like an idiot in front of your speakers, because it's just weird to do that, you can sort of walk around the room as it's playing back and just sort of vibe with it. And you press a button essentially when you like a section.
So markers.
And then the computer marks it, and it marks each section, and it just deletes everything that you didn't like and comps together a little edit of all the bits you wanted using, say, some kind of intelligent, you know,
that has got to be something that is so doable in modern DAWs. I mean, it's just it's not an impossibility at all. Dom, you haven't had a chance.
I was just going to say the button should fire off.
The button what?
Carry on. The button should fire off like 30 seconds before you press it. If you see what I mean? So
Exactly.
it buffers it. So you go, oh, I like that.
Preemptive,
I'll do it. Yeah, really cool idea.
Well,
Nice.
Ableton has a bit of pre-record thing, doesn't it? Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, that whole thing, a lot of live bands, when they've got the money to spend in the studio, run those kind of things like U2 and that kind of mob are always keeping stuff running because they're kind of jamming out the stuff, which is not dissimilar to modular. And the fact that you can just let kind of Ableton run nicely and see what's going on, I'm sure we're not the first people with that, but you really need the luxury of someone taking notes or your magic red archive button, or just someone with an amazing memory to go back over it. And also, it's never quite the same. That kind of slightly romanticized, that was the take, that was the awesome take.
Go back and there's
rare for it to be the take, with some rare exceptions. I mean, I'm sure the one Tori lost was way better than the one she ended up with.
yeah, that's true.
I think you have a good point though there, Jamie. I think there's definitely something in the market. It could be just like a plugin. It's like a MIDI button. It's or an app on your phone that's got a button on it that is just communicating via MIDI. Because a MIDI command would do it. It'd be like in, out, wouldn't it?
Totally.
And then it would just kind of go,
simple.
okay, what set of rules do you want? Which tracks do you want to apply it to? Blah blah blah. Off we go. And it saves before you did that, so you've just got a comped version. That makes total sense. I think that's
so cool. Then you could walk around the room and you wouldn't have to be like sitting in front of the computer, like, because it's just not the way you listen, so you want to just be walking and doing something different and go, that's cool, like I do even with a podcast. When I want to edit someone talking, I'd much rather be in the kitchen like doing something else and listen to the conversation and go, that bit was amazing, like I want to remember that bit. But I don't really want to. If I get too anal in front of the computer, I find I don't listen in the same way. I'm not in the same kind of spectator to the audio. I'm more in this sort of kind of scientist edit mode, something or other.
It's different brain space.
There's no romance to the process.
Well, I wonder if there's a possibility. Sorry, go, Tori.
No, you're good. I was going to say not for a mobile instance, but I feel like in the studio we use Reaper, which is open source, and we've built all kinds of like strange things for the DAW because I mean you can. So I'm curious if there's something that could be built within like a DAW like that that's open source where you can connect it to something or assign it to some knob that would do exactly that. But I don't know how you would do that in like a mobile, like what Jamie's saying, like walking around. Like,
well, just a MIDI command.
Almost like an app on your phone.
Yeah, Bluetooth MIDI or Wi-Fi MIDI. It should be.
It
or, I mean, you just bounce the whole thing as an MP3 and you take it away with you and you just have it on the bus or whatever and you go, oh yeah, that bit. And then it saves it as an XML thing and then sends it off and the DAW just passes it.
That's the one. That's the vibe. I mean, anyway, anyone out there who's, capable? I mean, the coolest part would be it automatically chops the bits and disregards the rest. So that really does, it kind of puts them into a bank of like, you like these nuggets so that when you fancy being inspired, you don't have to go back to a 2-hour audio block, which is just, horrendous. Wow, did I just come to the
I've just basically joined. You've just, after that conversation, which is highly technical, I decided it was time for you to leave the 70s. I just realised I had colour correction on your input because whoever it was last time, it was really weird colour, and I obviously corrected it. But there you go. I can put it back if you preferred. Would you prefer to be?
I like the 70s.
Okay, there you go. You're back in sepia. There you go. All right, that's fair enough. You can have it back. I think that's fair. Right. On that note, let's just have a little bit of a break. We can talk about our friends over at iZotope who are going to be giving away a copy of Ozone 9 Advanced. Remember, just watch this and you'll get the information.
Building on a 17-year legacy in audio mastering, Ozone 9 brings balance to your mix with never-before-seen processing for low end, real-time instrument separation, and lightning-fast workflows powered by machine learning. Expect lower CPU usage and shorter startup times with Ozone 9 compared to Ozone 8. Experience fluid metering in a fully resizable environment that lets you track the most subtle details of your audio. Use more plugins at once, mix while you master without worrying about slowdowns or dropouts. And immerse yourself in a smooth, modern experience designed to keep you in your creative flow. As you can see, Ozone 9 is the fastest way to get your master off the ground. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing and mastering and to download your free trial of Ozone 9.
Indeed you can. That's iZotope.com, and we want to say thank you. As we're at episode 600, I mean, thanks iZotope, because they've been providing prizes for a while now, and their support is greatly appreciated, as I'm sure all of you who have won, I mean, must be getting on for a high percentage of our audience, although obviously we have a massive audience, but they've been doing it so long. But yes, we've got a competition this week. We're looking for the hashtag for streaming 2. Now, I'll explain that because the Ozone 9 actually allows you to apply specific processes which are designed for maybe MP3s or other kind of output devices. So that's why I thought I'd put that 4, that's FOR rather than the number 4, streaming, and 2 as in TOO, if that makes sense. So if you tweet the hashtag for streaming 2, I will accept the numbers in case anyone gets confused to at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. via Twitter, and that's the competition, and that's our episode 600 competition. We do very much appreciate their continued support, and in fact we have a winner from last week. Now let me see, this is let me bring this one up. This is somebody called Audrey Johnson. I don't know if it's a guy or a gal, I am not sure. Audrey is one of those names that can be either, and they are at Audrey XINYI. Why do people always make unpronounceable handles? I can't say that. But anyway, Audrey Johnson, you have won. If you want to get in touch, you are now due a copy of Ozone 9. Early Christmas present? Yes, indeed. That's exactly what it is. So thank you very much for entering, and thanks everybody for everything. Forever. Right, what's next? Buy multi-track. Oh, yeah, we got to get this. Okay, now this is quite... well, I'll just play a bit, right?
No pressure. So I have a DeepComposer keyboard here.
This is Dr. Matt Wood, an Amazon
is play a simple melody.
Rally.
We'll send that melody up to the cloud and we'll generate a complete song.
So this is the new
no pressure.
DeepComposer hardware keyboard that actually communicates directly with massive AI cloud. Okay, so he's playing obviously something fairly... Is this Ode to Joy? I think it is.
Yeah.
Right, skip that. Isn't this beautiful? So this is what the cloud came up with, and this is all of Amazon's supercomputing power, which Sonicstate uses as its backbone as well. Okay, so we get onto that bit.
Let's take a look.
And then he gets on to...
Let's take a look.
That sounds better, actually. I like that.
Amazing.
And we worked with using the
he also got
the accompaniment.
Where's he gone? Right, so now we've got what's his name? His name is Jonathan Coulton, who has joined in. He basically collaborated with AI.
This song
using
is a cautionary
DeepComposer.
tale. There's a science fiction short story about collaborating with an artificial intelligence.
I have a feeling he's maybe not 100% on board with the concept.
I wrote a song with a robot in Vegas. Now I'm a brain in a jar. Started a band with some robots in Vegas. One could play the MIDI guitar. We had some hits and we got hunted.
I'm fast forwarding because I want you to hear what happens at the end.
Maybe it's time that I moved on. When the robots come to find me, me and my jar will both be gone.
Ready?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was shit, basically, and I don't mind saying that. But, I mean, the song is obviously a great, quirky songwriter, but the accompaniment... So the idea... So basically, Amazon entering the kind of AI musical side of things. Google have been doing it for a long time. Amazon have got an enormous amount of computing power and presumably, you know, clever scientists and whatnot. And it's really funny, actually, because I thought, is it just me? I mean, am I just being really cynical about this? And is it actually all right? Is it acceptable? But then there was a BBC article about it as well, which is it was on the BBC website, and it just basically said it's awful. I don't think it sounds any good. What a terrible example. And that was from a musicologist. So I feel, you know, I'm in good company in my... But the wider concept, I mean, this is Tori, you saw this as well. I mean, you are a skillful working musician who could, with your eyes closed, probably with one finger, with with headphones on, not hearing what you're doing, come up with something better than that. I mean, you'd think if you were going to do that, why not make it good?
I have I have a couple different feelings on this. When I look at it from like a tech perspective, I'm like, I like where this is going. I think it's cool. It could lead to different things. But obviously as a musician, you're just like, this is something that's A, trying to put me out of a job, and B, it's not doing a very good job of it. And I'm like shocked that Amazon decided to use that as their example.
Yeah,
like
that's
surely they tested
reveal.
This. Yeah. I just feel like if I was prepared to be shook by this, and I was not, which I'm pleasantly happy about. I don't want AI coming to take. I work in a lot of advertising, so I feel like that's the first music that's probably going to go. When AI composing maybe starts to take over. But I was prepared to be a little scared by this. You think Amazon, you think billions of dollars behind this thing, and the fact that that's what they put out, I was like, okay, maybe I can hold on to my job for a little bit longer.
I think maybe they need a new project manager. I don't know about you. Maybe someone who's got some musical kind of, I don't know, chops. It's interesting, Jamie. I mean, you're that's what you do as well. You and we've talked at length.
Make music like that.
Well, no, not make music, but create. You don't create. You create music very much better than that, which is not algorithmic in what's there. I mean, we've talked about how AI can be useful in production. Making the boring stuff. Like maybe helping you comp your takes or whatever. But what surprises me about this is just how bad it was. I mean, why? I mean, and honestly, it was really funny because he was, what's his name? Dr. Matt Wood. He was kind of going, this is the next bit. And everyone was going, woo, doing that kind of Apple keynote speech thing. And then when they actually heard what it came up with, it was like, yeah. So why? I mean, I'm glad that they didn't, but I just don't understand how that even got to be a thing.
Well, I was lucky enough to speak to Richard Devine on episode 57 of the podcast, and he directed me to a chap called William Fields, which, if you're not familiar with his work, is unbelievably good, and it's all generated as AI. So, yeah, that is what we need to check out, because whatever that guy's doing, and I'm going to interview him for the pod soon. I just chat with him, and it's amazing. It is crazy. And so, yeah, I think it's funny to think that guy is essentially shitting on a massive company with all of their resources who've made a fantastically poor looking keyboard. What did he call that thing? That little
It's called the DeepComposer. I've got the facts here. It will be available in the US only to begin with from early 2020 and cost $99 or 76 quid. So I mean, you get a MIDI keyboard at the very least, but you also get it to hook up and auto accompany that. And I mean, I suppose the only impressive thing, if I can say, about the demo was it took like a sec. He played the melody and then bang, it came straight back. I mean, I guess that's something, right?
You don't need cloud computing.
I want something really bad, and I want it right now. I've got
you don't need all that computing. You're not demonstrating the computing. You're demonstrating the complete lack of understanding of how to make music. I mean, you could do that quite easily with one PC. The way they're doing AI is they're feeding it examples of like here's 50 different bass lines from tracks of the kind of tracks that we're going to feed into it. Here's 50 different guitar lines. Here's a tempo. The computer can listen to the audio, work out the keys as it goes through against time, and it can spurt out a random sample from those bass lines merged together. There's this stuff you can do really quickly, and it will sound like that. It'll sound awful.
Hold on. I've got a comment. There's a comment here. Atom Machine says, I have a deep composter in the garden, which I will throw stuff in, which I think actually may well work better.
I mean, I don't understand what's going on in that. Somebody looked at that and they decided that it was a good example of how computers could compose music. So that normally that would be if I tried to write a program that wrote poetry and thought, it's not half bad. And then people who actually knew about poetry explained to me why it was utter rubbish. But in this case, it's obviously utter rubbish before you even
Everybody
start.
can hear it. Apart from
it's crazy. However, it is possible to do some really good stuff. as you know, the William Field stuff that was mentioned, you can do some really, really interesting compositions by literally getting a computer to mash together loads and loads of examples and work out for itself what a musician might do faced with this chord structure at this tempo with these kind of musical elements going on. And just like the drum machine is not going to take over from drummers, it's just a different way of doing things. And we already see it applied to things like mixing with the Ozone stuff, listening to the sonics and suggesting, okay, well, the bass isn't deep enough, or there's too much treble here, or actually, you know, this drop is too low, too high. Those kind of things are useful. They add to the tools. And it's quite interesting when you take, say, a plugin that can produce random. So say you've got a random generator in a modular that's just firing out some random notes, and it's obviously random. If you can apply some AI to that randomness that says, actually, do you know what? If I played it on guitar, the scale would be more based around this, and also follow this chord structure, and also look back on the last 10 years of blues songs that you've got in the library and make it sound like blues. And you, at that point, you don't know what the computer's going to do, because it's just calling up a load of list of stuff that it has categorized. So it works a lot better than that in all sorts of things. But that to me is just like way worse than you could possibly imagine. I mean, you could forgive it if it was just like a pretty average kind of sounding thing, but that's just so substandard as to be appalling.
I know. I mean, there was a bass line. There was one point in the bass line where you probably fire that guy, because it's like, no, there's too many notes there. I think the interesting thing is, and probably the scary thing is, that probably since that video was aired, the AI has learned so much that it's probably improved a huge magnitude, and will probably, you know, and can continue to do without any kind of, nobody actually has to do the work, you know, as long as they're putting the right stuff for it to learn in, and it's learning in the right way. But
we should watch out maybe for,
Sorry, I was just going to say it's garbage in, garbage out, because that probably happened because it got the tempo of the tune wrong, so it double timed the bass line, simple stuff like that. So if it can't work out, if you're not feeding it stuff, you're on stage, it's probably got some foldback feed of the tape up or something telling what's going on, so it couldn't get the tempo right. Probably inside it, you know, it's just got the wrong person putting the intelligence in. I know it sounds weird. If you've got
the wrong kind of intelligence,
if you just feed in a whole bunch of crap, then you'll just get a whole bunch of crap out. If you feed in a whole bunch of archived material, which is all collectively brilliant, and you sprinkle on top some kind of really nice musical people that you like, to say, well, this is good because, and this is good because, and actually that's a great song, but that bass line sucks. Then suddenly you've got good artificial intelligence, which is based on years of experience intelligence of musicians. And that's the way it has to work.
This seems like an instance of where suits that know nothing of music were making decisions, as opposed to bringing consultants that might have actually, I don't know that the product is necessarily bad, it's just how they chose to utilize the product. Like, I was just expecting so much more, and I feel like maybe once it's out, or they'll do something else that will be like, oh, psych, this was, you know, this thing, but now we've actually talked to real people that, you know, can help us and point us in the right direction. It just feels like people that... That will happen. I'm sure of it. I mean, you know, once you ramp up that kind of, you know, whatever it is, the meat grinder, you know, the code grinder, it will just be, you know, okay, we need to pour some different stuff in it, you know, then it will come up with other things, you know, so... I suppose, but yeah, I think it's just, what's so flabbergasting about that is, how did that even get signed off? You know, why didn't they wait till they got a better example? I mean, I suppose that's the thing. It's because, I mean, almost anything else. I mean, the Roland's Jupiter XM arpeggiator does better than that. So, you know,
well, the Casio, you know, the Casio things from the 70s that obviously Jamie knows
Tyros Arranger, or any of those.
The auto rhythm generating stuff is better than that. You know, crazy.
Yeah, but it's how it's done. You see, it's the AI part. That's the fancy business. Yeah, it's really it's yeah. Anyway,
it needs more blockchain.
More blockchain. That's probably it. I wanted to throw that in there. I didn't mean to do it, because like you, Tori, I was like, because I just got, people sent me a link and I thought, oh God, Amazon doing it. This is going to be great. Yeah. It was really so not. Anyway, never mind. Perhaps this will get us back into some Christmas cheer instead. Spitfire.
On Merry Winter's Morn,
audio at it
our
again.
very own Santa Claus of Sound, Harry Wilson, went into Spitfire Studio and recorded
nice
some
Christmas jumper
Sleighbells.
there.
Brimming with festive cheer, this is what they sound like. And because creativity shouldn't be complicated, we've turned it into this. And best of all, it's free.
Which, as with all of their stuff, is. I mean, I wonder how much variance and other stuff there is that would that just a Sleighbell sample might actually pick up. I mean, maybe there are short or long ones, shaky ones, whatever. That would be good, because sometimes I've actually used Sleighbells in number one records. In fact, I know I have, and there's something about that sort of shaking thing. If you get it to the right thing, it's sort of it's like a kind of, it's like, hey, that's not a tambourine. What's that? Oh, it's a Sleighbell. They can work. So I mean, maybe it'd be very useful. I don't know. This really was a plug for the Spitfire thing, which is great. There's some really good ones. Actually, some of their Spitfire labs have become really classic. Yeah. Actually, like the soft piano, fantastic things. This was a bit sort of Christmassy, sort of slightly fun, but it was kind of, what's the library instrument that you need that you can't find anywhere, assuming it's not Sleighbells?
Oh God, you really put me on the spot there. Woodblock. It could be. I wonder, because the thing is, sometimes you think, oh, I just need. It's like shakers, they're really hard. You get sort of simple ones, and they're always the loop's the wrong tempo, or the feels wrong. That we've talked about that before. Actually, we talked about that, Tori, with what was that thing that was on last week, which was the controller, which we could use as a shaker, maybe.
Yeah,
amazing.
In combination,
which I found out is velocity sensitive. I asked them after we had that whole long conversation about that thing. Yeah. It's
so
it's a fun little thing. It's this. I feel the same way about that as I do with this. I think I feel a little better about these. I mean, all the labs that they do, they're free, and not everybody can afford super expensive samples. Some of Spitfire's stuff is very pricey, although it's great. I think it's cool that they're putting out these free little instruments. I mean, yeah, it's fun. They were like, oh, let's do something for the holiday. I don't see any. It's fun.
Oh, no,
I don't know if I really ever needed it.
I know, exactly. I don't know if there's. For me, it was kind of like, I'm glad it's there. I just wondered if, because I mean, do you use a lot of libraries in what you're doing, or do you tend to work from sort of scratch more?
I do both. It totally depends on the project. I mean, I score films for Hallmark, and there's Christmas in those, so this could actually be very useful to me. But it completely depends. It depends on schedule. Same like how we were talking about with modular. It just depends how much time you have. If I have unlimited time, I'll sit and, I like making weird sounds with a cello. There's one back there all the time. And I'll sit and I'll record and I'll mess around and I'll hit it with stuff. And when I have the time to do that, if I don't have the time to do that, I'll find, audio on Splice that someone's already done that I can mess with or use as a starting point, or samples. It's all comes down to time for me. I would always rather record live musicians if I can, but there's some stuff that you just can't do on your own.
Do, right. Yeah. So, Dom, I'm guessing, Dom is actually a co-writer of a bona fide Christmas hit. Did that have Sleighbells on it?
It definitely did. Sleighbells changed my life. I mean, I was lucky enough to write a song with
There's the
Tony Mortimer.
I'm sorry.
That's incredible, yeah.
With Tony Mortimer and a guy called Rob Keane. And we had a week to write an album for a band called E17 in the 90s. And so with one member of the band, Tony, who's fronted the whole thing, we just did 10 songs in 10 days. And the first song that we did was a song called Stay Another Day, which wasn't a Christmas song. I'm quite proud to have written a song which then ended up being number one for 5 weeks at Christmas at that time of year. So Christmas is good in this house because lots and lots of kind of versions of that tune come out. And it's out it's 25 years, actually, this Christmas, 25 years. And it's out this year for charity, raising money for mental health. So please do go out and stream it or whatever, buy it, because it's a very, very good cause. But that wasn't a Christmas song, but it was quite ballady. It was the ballad of the album. And then Phil Harding and Ian Kernow, who are just stunning producers, got a hold of the tapes that we'd been working on, and they put Sleighbells on the end, and it just became a Christmas song. They did a nice snowy video, and it came in about number 3 or something. And then the week before Christmas, I was told it was going to midweek for number 1. So it was just like astonishing. So,
Who put the Sleighbells on, though? Did they put the Sleighbells on?
They put the Sleighbells on because we did it in the summer. It was amazing. No one really wanted to do any work, to be honest. Tony Mortimer just bought a new Range Rover. It was really hot outside. The studio we were using was really sweaty, so we just banged a song down every day. I think partly because of that, it was so good because we just the vibe of it was just a really good time to be working. The vibe came across, and so I'd kind of like forgotten about it, to be honest. I knew the album was due out, and then I got a pre-release copy, and it had been stickered saying includes Stay Another Day, and I thought, well, that sounds good. That means Stay Another Day will probably be a single. That sounds like they've already decided what the first single is going to be because they've got publishing and everything on it. That'd be great. And then suddenly just exploded, and it fitted perfectly. But there are a few Christmas number ones which aren't Christmas songs, and I quite like that fact that it wasn't a Christmas, wasn't about Christmas. It wasn't set down to be let's write a Christmas song. Indeed, because Sleighbells paid for my house, really, so this is all good.
I wonder.
Sorry, carry on.
I wonder. Okay, can any song be Christmasified by adding Sleighbells? Is there no song that if you just put Sleighbells on it, it could be Christmassy?
And a wintry video.
You have to have a wintry video.
NWA, like some kind of NWA song.
Do you think maybe it's some really hardcore NWA or Public Enemy with Sleighbells? If you put Sleighbells on, would it be Christmassy? I think that'd be a very interesting. Yeah, or something. My finger's not fast enough to hit the beat button. So
sorry.
What I was going to say, sorry, was to answer the question is back to Louis Jardine and his percussion. He used to turn up with these enormous flight cases of the most weird and wonderful percussion instruments I've ever seen. In fact, he sometimes used the boxes as percussion because if you drop them, they made the most amazing kind of percussion noise. But that kind of group of cabasses, shakers, triangles, and that's about it, isn't it? Cabasses, shakers, triangles, the top endy stuff, because you can get so many different kind of shakers. If you can get a groove going in the top end with a combination of those kind of panned around out the speakers. And obviously none of those sounds are ever the same. So there's lots of different types of shakers, lots of different types of cabasses and all the rest of it. Then those are the ones that you're looking for. And you might find the groove on a cabassa loop, for example, and it sounds great, but then fitting other things around it is really, really hard. And it made me realize working with real percussionists like that, how important that is, because they're just playing and they're locked in the groove. You can pan everything around.
So
just
true,
sitting in this kind of surround sound of percussion, and it's really, really nice. So that is just something it's almost impossible to recreate if you're trying to do it, even just buy something.
Amazon, keep your hands off the cabassa.
Yeah, maybe.
Can you imagine?
I mean, it really it's true.
Maybe
midified sleigh bells. Basically, there's a couple of things. If Amazon had replaced every sound in that terrible example with the sleigh bell, polyphonic, just pure sleigh bells, the whole arrangement. I mean, that would have been all right. And also, I just want to say you're so right, man. Like I was listening to we were doing a session yesterday. I randomly had a playlist of Cuban music, and it is amazing. And one of the songs is just like it's just shaker, and then it's conga, and bass, and it's just amazing. And I'm just thinking I can just imagine like these old couples like grooving and just like loving this, and there's no kick, there's nothing, there's none of the signifiers that we use to go, come on everyone, dance. It's just but like it's still groovy, sweet, and it's all around the pocket, and it's kind of busy, but it's like just bubbling, and it's full of humanity, dare I say, Amazon, fucking humanity. Sorry, add some sleigh bells to that. Yeah, that's what we need. There's a really good piece by Nick Cave. Oh, sorry.
Go. I was gonna say, I want to know like a challenge of what Christmas or what songs with sleigh bells are not about Christmas. Like how many of those exist?
Okay, I've got one. Well, because I did a remix of Louina McKennitt, Mama's Dance, which I suppose is Christmassy, but it wasn't out at Christmas, and that has sleigh bells in it. I think sleigh bells, if you're going to play, also sleigh bells, if you're going to play sleigh bells, they're very forgiving, aren't they? Because they're sort of sloppy. There's no real kind of percussive element to them unless you're really kind of moving them wildly. They're sort of shh. So maybe you don't have to be all that good to be a sleigh bell. What's a sleigh bell?
I'm busy this year.
I'm trying to, get the sleigh bell guy in. We need the sleigh bell guy. Who's the sleigh? Yeah, wonder what that works. Who the current hot favourite? Is there a current LA sleigh bell specialist that you can call, Tori, when you need one?
Honestly, there is somebody that I would call for that. I've called the same person to do bucket drumming for me, spoon playing. Like, I have a friend that is like the weird percussion dude, and I'm sure if I was like, can you come and do some odd tempo sleigh bells? He'd be like, yeah, I'll be over in 10, and he'll have like them in his car already. Like, that's a guy named Hal Rosenfeld, if anyone ever needs a weird percussionist. We got him.
I would, in my mind, he should show up in a cart pulled by reindeer for that session.
Absolutely. And never during Christmas, only on the off season.
Okay. Oh, this is getting random. But yes, the sleigh bells. Sleigh bells are good. So if you want to get hold of those, but yeah, just general percussion, live percussion, and they're a dying breed. Or not dying breed. They're less, because everybody thinks I could just program that kind of cabasa part on my my millions of sample libraries. But they're never. It's like Foley and footsteps. They're never right. You have to record them properly, or there has to be something much more complicated going on in the vibe of it to get the human feel and the difference. I agree with you there, Jamie. Definitely.
Amazing. Imagine that beautiful future that we live in. Everything else is digital, but the humans are just playing bongos, just playing along with the computer. Like, don't worry, AI, we've got you. I know you can't do this stuff yet, but just check this little, give me hey, hand me those sleigh bells. I'll show you a few things. Google. Amazon, yeah. I mean, it's heartening that we kind of go back to our most primitive instruments, our earliest expression in a way, and sort of like that's clearly going to be something ultra human. So maybe going forward, we just need to kind of accentuate the human as we all slowly feel more and more inadequate in the face of naughty tech.
Well, it'll be the same thing when it was like in the 80s when everybody was using drum machines. You'd get the drummer to play a live hi-hat over the top of it. It'd be like, we go right back to that. It'll be the sleigh bells this time. No, that's it. That Jonathan Coulton song could have been improved. And if you had somebody next to him with a set of sleigh bells, that would have been that. We wouldn't have cared. It wouldn't have sounded so rubbish. Anyway, we should ramble on about this for a long time, or I have rambled on for a long time about this. So I think it's probably time to wrap things up. I know there are a couple of extra topics, but I want to thank my guests ever so much for joining us. It's been great fun. Before we go, let me put the iZotope competition up there one more time, just so that if you didn't get it the first time, you could join. That's winning iZotope Ozone 9 Advanced, fantastic mixing and mastering tool. We're looking for the hashtag 4streaming2. That's the word 4 as in FOR, streaming, and the word 2 as in TOO. I should have thought about that, really. That's almost impossible to get right. And the hashtag Ozone9 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. Thank you very much indeed. And to our guests, Mr. Jamie Liddell, thank you very much. I forgot to plug your podcast, actually, because you've been going great guns with that. What's next on your show?
Well, yeah, I've got a couple of goodies. I mean, I shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, really, but I've interviewed Academy Award winner Andrew Wyatt, and that'll be coming up on a forthcoming show, amongst other things. I've got a lot of good guests, and I just keep going. I keep kind of traveling the world. I'm actually going to be doing a live pod in London coming up. I'll give details about that as well. But thanks so much,
Jamie Liddell Music, isn't it? Is that the right place? JamieLiddellMusic.com.
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
it. I'm just going to throw it up there. So this is hanging out with audio files. There we go. And so yes, episode 59. Gosh. So we're almost in sync by a factor of 10. That's awesome, isn't it? That's fantastic.
I know. I'm just
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jamie. It's been a pleasure. And also, Tori Letzler, thank you for joining us and getting up early and being in the studio and get all that crosstown traffic. Thank you very much. And I guess you've got to now, I hope your spotting session goes well and you can remain diplomatic in the face of adversity. I know how it can go sometimes.
Oh, always. Always have to remain diplomatic.
Excellent. Well, maybe that's another story for another time when perhaps it didn't go like that. That would be awesome. One for the memoirs, perhaps. I'm sure that's never happened. And, of course, Mr. Dominic Hawken there with your fancy lens and your fancy camera and your fancy studio. Thanks very much for joining us, too. It's been great fun, as ever. That was episode 600. My God.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
We'll see you all next time. We'll cut to our little celebrity squares shot for the final hurrah. We'll see you all next time. Thanks very much for watching. See you later. Bye-bye now.